This is my favorite kind of free logs, the ones I don't have to go get. The sound of a wood chipper sent me down the road to the neighbor's house. She had said she was going to have some trees cut down and that I could have the logs if that was all right with the tree service. It was. I said I preferred 8 and 10 foot lengths if that worked out for them, that when they were finished I'd bring my trailer down and winch the logs on and take them home. They said, "You don't have to do that. We'll bring them to you." And they did. I hadn't used my sawmill in many weeks, and things sort of piled up. I needed to do some reorganizing before they brought the logs. It was going to be a tight squeeze. My GoPro was in time-lapse, but I didn't realize that. I hadn't yet figured out all the intricacies of operating a GoPro. After all, I'd only had it for 3 or 4 years. Although the neighbors' trees were alder, the tree service had a couple of pine logs already in their trailer. They asked if I'd like to have them too. Of course I would. First thing I wanted to do was get one up onto the mill and move the other one close to it to make room for the rest of the logs. But I couldn't find my cant hook. I'd left it up on the hill probably in March when I was bringing logs down from there. So I hopped on the ATV, drove it up as far as I could, and then walked all the way to the top to find my cant hook. I'd left it, the skidding cone, and my tow ropes up there in March, not realizing it would be many weeks before I'd get back up there to continue bringing down alder logs for my son-in-law's cabinet project. I wasn't even sure the cant hook would be there, but it was. The trail was rapidly overgrowing with ferns and brush. Seeing all the equipment I'd left up there made me eager to get back up there and get the rest of those logs. But first, I'd have to mill the new free logs to make room at the mill for any more of my own. If I waited much longer, I was going to have to mow that trail. After filming this clip, I got my camera operating normally again. While I was up on the hill retrieving my cant hook, David Walker had brought another log. First, I put the big pine log on the mill, and then I moved the other 2 forward to make room for yet more logs. And more logs. I was beginning to wonder if I'd have room for them all. Watching David Walker manipulate the logs and his machine to avoid hitting any structures made me glad he was doing it and not me. A couple of these logs would be the biggest I'd milled since the very first milling project, the big redwood tree I had to cut down to make room for the mill. I thought it would be necessary to pile logs on top of each other to make sure there would be room to turn the machine around. That log in the lower left almost stopped before falling off onto the sawmill floor. 30 or 40 years ago, I might have reached out to try to stop that log. But I'm older now and just a little bit wiser.
Well, I won't have to roll that one far.
I continued to be impressed with Mr. Walker's skill in managing his machine. This one is the biggest and heaviest log of the entire bunch. I certainly did not want that to roll off onto the sawmill floor. 9 alder, 3 pine. That ought to keep me busy for a while once I get my sawmill running. I haven't used it since March, early March. It's now June. There is no spark. Intermittent problems are the most difficult to diagnose. My sawmill engine started missing a beat now and then. Sometimes it would miss several beats and die. They usually started right up. Other times it was just plain difficult to start. It mimicked a fuel problem. Water in the fuel, dirt in a jet, something in the fuel system. Electrical problems are usually yes or no, on or off. It works or it doesn't work. The fuel was clean. There was never any water in it. The carburetor jets were clean. The problem persisted. I lived with it until after several weeks of inactivity, it absolutely would not start. I checked the spark plug with an inline tester. There was no spark. There aren't many electrical components in the ignition system on this Kohler engine. One is a kill switch here. It's a normally closed switch which shorts the energy from the coil to the spark plug to ground. You won't get a spark. This turns on fuel. It opens the kill circuit so the spark plug energy will go to the spark plug and make sparks. I checked that with the switch with the ohmmeter. It is functioning correctly. So we've got a good spark plug. We've got a good kill switch. That leaves two things. The coil that's in here somewhere and a low oil level sensor. There's a sensor in here. If the oil level's low, it will kill the spark. You can't start it. It won't run. This way you don't damage the engine by running it with no oil. This seems to me overkill. The small airplanes I learned to fly in and that fill the skies today do not have oil level indicators or oil level sensors. After all, you don't want a malfunctioning sensor shutting off your airplane engine. I think I am perfectly capable of checking the oil from time to time. In airplanes, you do it every time you go flying. I don't need the oil sensor. A lot of people have said, these things malfunction, unplug it. I've unplugged it, and it makes no difference. But now I have a tip from a member of the Woodland Mills community on Facebook that says, this is the problem. Disconnect this, and it will probably run. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to disconnect both sides of it to isolate it from the system. Then, if I cannot get a spark, it has to be the spark coil. Now, this is isolated. Whatever the hell that is, it is isolated. This little shiny box right here. We do have fuel. I will check it again. I have a mental checklist. Gout. G-O-W-T. Gasoline. I can see it. It's in there. I can check oil here, but it's much easier over here. Yes, we have oil. Water. There's water in the tank. I don't care right now. I just want to see if it runs. Tension. We do not need blade tension. This is just an engine test. Okay. Fuel switch and spark switch on. Choke on. If it doesn't start within 2 or 3. Look at that. You plug it back in and it dies. Woohoo! Now I can start in on this stuff. Hot diggity damn. I'm gonna go change my shoes, come back out, make some sawdust, make some boards. I'm a happy sawyer. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon.